UN Human Rights Council. A load of people from NGOs want to have them kicked off, are finding it very difficult to do so. Amnesty's Middle East and North Africa director says, you know, people have been turning a blind eye to what's going on in Libya because it's such a country of strategic and economic importance. It's very convenient now, isn't it, to say it's terrible what's happening there, but shouldn't it have been said before? Well,
I think we have said it, and I think my colleagues in the human rights arena have said it, and they have been trying to get in to look at human rights issues in Libya over a long period of time, and they have not been allowed access. And this is what I think people need to understand. The United Nations is made up of its member states. Libya was voted on to the United Nations Human Rights Council, so if there are concerns about Libya being a member of that council, it's for the other member states to recognise that and to vote them off.
So it's not an embarrassment for the UN that Libya is there on a Human Rights Council when we're seeing these sorts of things on AlJazeera every day?
I think it does lead people to ask questions about the United Nations system, but one of the strengths of the United Nations is precisely the fact that it is composed of all of these different countries bringing very different things, some of them unpalatable. That's the reality of what the United Nations is dealing with on a daily basis. And it's for the member states of the United Nations to recognise that and to recognise where they would want a country, for example, that was voted on to the Human Rights Council to be voted off.
You work a little bit with the United Nations Development Programme. I know it's not directly under your responsibility. That's Helen Clark, former New Zealand Prime Minister's area. But you work with them.
Yes.
And on their website about Libya, they say the UN, in general, has enjoyed a long and fruitful relationship with Libya. In what sense, when you know there's all of this going on, can a relationship with a country and a leader like that be long and fruitful?
Because I expect that they have been working, for example, on issues to do with freeing up opportunities in Libya, trying to make sure that people have access to employment. We see all these kinds of contradictions all the time. I'm currently working in Yemen. It's an extremely difficult and fragile situation in which to work. But there will be some of my UN colleagues that will be trying to support the Yemeni government to try and build institutions in Yemen, to try and build capacity in Yemen, because it's so fragile. I, on the other hand, I'm dealing with a situation where people have been displaced from conflict, where we're not able to get access to vulnerable populations. So those kinds of contradictions exist in many countries around the world.
And one of the difficulties for the United Nations is not just playing the politics of a country, but protecting your staff in a country. And in places like Libya at the moment, and Yemen, how do you do that?
Well, we make difficult decisions sometimes about when we have to move our staff out, or we get them to move their dependents out and key staff stay. This is happening across the world. The important thing about how we judge that is that we look at that on the basis of what do we need to enable us to stay rather than what precipitates us leaving.
Are you thinking of pulling out of countries that have this unrest in them at the moment? Are you examining that?
We have to examine it on a country-by-country basis.
Okay, so well, let's talk about Libya on a country-by-country basis.
Well, let me just say Egypt, for example. We did take non-essential staff and dependents out of Egypt. People are now moving back into Egypt. In relation to Libya, we will look at that and make a decision on the basis of the situation and is there a security threat to our workers in country.
And what is the advice you're getting on that at the moment?
The advice at the moment is that because this is not happening on a huge scale in Tripoli, for example, that we are not necessarily having to pull our people out, but we will be looking at it all the time. As I said, this is about how we make a decision to stay rather than making a decision to leave.
Thank you very much. Glad you could stay with us while we sorted out those few technical problems, but very good to hear your point of view.
Thank you.
Valerie Amos from the United Nations. Let's go to Imran Khan, who's going to tell us what material we've been getting in from those of you who send us stuff from cyberspace.
Well, thanks, David. Like you say, there's a lot happening in cyberspace, especially on Libya and Iran. We'll have all the latest updates, including this latest video out of Tehran, so stick with us.
Thank you very much indeed, Imran. We're off to Venezuela in just a few moments, where for the first time Hugo Chavez isn't getting all his own way as the opposition groups step up pressure on the president.
The Pyongyang Film Academy hosts some of North Korea's brightest young stars. What does it take to serve a national propaganda machine? 101 East examines the privileged lives of the country's elite. 101 East at this time on Al Jazeera.
The times change. The instruments evolve. The battlegrounds shift.
This is America! Our country!
But the international struggle continues.
He was murdered!
Uncompromising, hard-hitting investigations.
I can't get no justice from no one in Jamaica.
People and power, at this time on Al Jazeera.
Interest rate cut in the United States gave Shanghai...
From the world to your phone. Al Jazeera Mobile.
David Foster with you on this Al Jazeera News Hour, and these are the top stories. The opposition in Uganda's crying foul. After ruling for 25 years, the president, Yoweri Museveni, has won a new 5-year term. He got 68% of the vote. His main rival, Kizza Besigye, just 26%, and he says the election was rigged. Pressure's being stepped up on Bahrain's ruling monarchy to begin discussions with opposition figures there. Demonstrators still camping out in the capital, demanding political reform. In Libya, witnesses are telling Al Jazeera that protesters in the city of AlJazeera, that's near Tripoli, are heading to Muammar Gaddafi's compound to burn it down. This is as security forces continue a deadly security clampdown. It's left at least 200 people dead. And it's to Libya that we go now. We're going to go to Benghazi, talk to Ahmed, who's a resident of the city. Ahmed, I know we don't want to identify you for obvious reasons, what part of the city you're in, but you're at home and you're hearing gunfire. Is that correct?
Well, yes, sir. I'm about 1 kilometer east from one of the army barricades. One of the army, actually, old army barricades. It was opened up today. People went in, took the artillery, took tanks, and hit it east to the army barricade, where all the trucks and all the army people are staying in, and a lot of gun artillery and a lot of gunshots were heard. I cannot put you can hear it right now, but 5 minutes ago it was really loud and clear. And also on the south side, which is 3 kilometers south of the army barricade, which is the police academy, it's burning now. It's definitely burning.